Have you ever sat in front of your computer screen, staring at that blinking cursor and felt completely paralyzed? It's 10 p.m. You promised yourself you would start working at 9 a.m. But now, all that's left is exhaustion and a heavy sense of guilt pressing on your chest. You ask yourself, why am I so lazy? Why can't I be disciplined like everyone else? But I want to tell you a truth. You are not lazy. Your brain is not broken. You are simply emotionally overwhelmed. Procrastination is actually a defense mechanism. It is a freeze response to pressure. And the good news is, you can absolutely learn to unfreeze yourself. In this special deep dive video today, I won't give you cliches like, just try harder. Instead, I will share with you 12 deep strategies, a comprehensive roadmap for you to regain control from tricking your brain into starting to maintaining sustainable focus. If you were looking for a sign to change your life, this is it. Take a deep breath and let's get started. We are going to start with the first secret, and this is probably the most important thing you need to remember. The main reason you procrastinate is not because you are lazy, but because your brain is afraid. Imagine your task, writing that thesis or finishing that business report, is like a gigantic mountain. When you look up at the summit, the amygdala in your brain, the fear processing center, screams, "Danger! Too big! Run away!" In physics, we have the concept of activation energy. To push a stationary boulder to start rolling, you need a massive amount of force at the beginning. But once it's rolling, you only need a very light force to maintain it. The mistake 99% of people make is trying to use full force to push the giant boulder immediately. They write on their to-do list, "Finish Project A." That is a recipe for disaster. The secret here is make the first step so small that it becomes stupid. Small enough that your brain doesn't have time to feel afraid. Don't set the goal, exercise for 1 hour. Set the goal, roll out the yoga mat. That's it. Don't set the goal, read 50 pages. Set the goal, open the book to the first page. This is called the 2-minute rule. If something takes less than 2 minutes to start, do it immediately. Why does it work? Because it tricks the brain. You are negotiating with your fear. Hey, I'm just rolling out the mat. I'm not forcing you to run a marathon, right? But the magic is, once you've rolled out the mat, once you've opened the Word file, the boulder has started rolling. Momentum will do the rest. I know, you might be thinking, but doing that, when will I ever finish the work? My dear friend, your problem right now isn't speed. It is paralysis. When you complete that tiny step, your brain releases a small amount of dopamine. It is a reward. It tells you you are safe. You can do this. And that tiny sense of achievement is exactly what heals the trauma caused by procrastination. So here is your exercise right now. Pick one thing you are procrastinating on. Don't do it. Just identify the smallest, most stupid step you can do in the next 2 minutes and just do that one step. Trust me, a journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step, one that you don't even need to lift too high. You made it past the first step. You sat down at your desk, but then, ding, a notification sound goes off. And before you realize it, you've been scrolling through TikTok for 30 minutes. Why does this happen? It's not because you lack willpower. It's because you are fighting against thousands of genius engineers in Silicon Valley, people who are paid astronomical salaries to do one thing: steal your attention. Our brains are programmed to seek out the easiest rewards. Phones provide cheap dopamine. Hard work provides delayed dopamine. If you leave your phone right next to your study materials, you are forcing your brain to choose between a delicious piece of cake and a plate of bland boiled vegetables every 5 seconds. Eventually, your willpower will run out. Secret number 2 is this: don't rely on willpower. Rely on your environment. Think about water. Water always flows along the path of least resistance. Your behavior is the same. You need to create friction for bad habits and remove friction for good habits. If you want to stop scrolling, don't just put your phone face down. Leave it in another room. Turn it off. Make retrieving it so difficult that your laziness actually beats your addiction. Conversely, if you want to read, place that book right on your pillow in the morning. Make it the easiest thing to reach. We often blame ourselves for being weak, but the truth is, the modern environment is designed for distraction. What you need to do is not punish yourself, but protect your energy. Build a fortress of focus. When you step inside, there are no dings, no blue light, just you and your goals. That is how you respect your own dreams. Secret 3: the perfectionism trap and the permission to suck. There is a little voice in your head whispering, "If I can't do it perfectly, I might as well not do it at all." This is toxic perfectionism. You think you have high standards, but in reality, you are wearing a heavy suit of armor. You are terrified that if you produce something imperfect, others will judge you, or worse, you will judge yourself as a failure. Procrastination is born from this fear. You wait for the perfect time, the perfect inspiration, the perfect skills, but that time never comes. There is a quote I want you to etch into your mind. You can't edit a blank page. A terrible draft is still worth 1,000 times more than a perfect idea stuck in your head. So what is the solution? Intentionally lower your standards. I call this the 70% rule. Instead of aiming for 100%, aim for 70%. Give yourself permission to create work that is good enough. Give yourself permission to write silly sentences, to write messy code. When you give yourself permission to suck, you lift the pressure off your shoulders. And the magic is, when the pressure disappears, creativity and productivity return. Remember when you were a child, you drew scribbles and showed them off with pride. You didn't care about proportions or colors, you just enjoyed the process. Find that inner child again. Done is better than perfect, because imperfection is the sign of being human, of being alive, of real effort. Perfection is only for lifeless statues in a museum. Be brave enough to be imperfect today.
Have you ever created the perfect schedule? 8 a.m., write report. 10 a.m., meeting. 2 p.m., study English. But by noon, you throw it all away because you are just too exhausted? The biggest mistake procrastinators make is trying to manage time like a robot. But you are human. You are a biological being. You run on energy, not on clock hands. Imagine your phone has only 10% battery left. Would you turn on data, play heavy games, and shoot 4K video all at once? Of course not. You would switch to power saving mode. Yet, we often force ourselves to do the hardest tasks, like creating or analyzing.
Have you ever created the perfect schedule? 8 a.m. write report, 10 a.m. meeting, 2 p.m. study English, but by noon, you throw it all away because you are just too exhausted? The biggest mistake procrastinators make is trying to manage time like a robot. But you are human. You are a biological being. You run on energy, not on clock hands. Imagine your phone has only 10% battery left. Would you turn on data, play heavy games, and shoot 4K video all at once? Of course not. You would switch to power saving mode. Yet we often force ourselves to do the hardest tasks, like creating or analyzing, when our battery is at its weakest, like 3 p.m. after a big meal. The result is brain resistance, and then procrastination. Secret number 4 is surf the energy wave. Observe yourself for 3 days. When do you feel most alert? That is your prime time. Protect that time slot at all costs and dedicate it only to your most important task. Conversely, accept your low energy times. Don't try to work then. Rest, do light cleaning, or simply do nothing at all. Don't force yourself to work specifically for 8 hours straight. No one can do that. Work in pulses, intense focus, then complete rest. When you stop fighting against your body's biological rhythm, procrastination automatically disappears, because now working is no longer torture, it is a natural flow. Forgive yourself on days when you are exhausted. You don't need to be constantly productive to be worthy of love. Resting is also a part of the work. Listen to your body. It is much wiser than you think. Do you ever feel like your mind is a tangled mess? You know you have a lot to do, but you don't know where to start. What comes first? What comes last? That is the state of brain fog. The biggest enemy of action is not laziness, it is a lack of clarity. When the brain doesn't see a specific destination, it defaults to hitting the brakes to ensure safety. Imagine your brain is like a computer's RAM. If you keep all your to-do lists, worries, ideas, and appointments in your head, the RAM gets overloaded. The machine runs slow, lags, and eventually crashes. That is exactly what happens when you procrastinate. You aren't doing anything, but you still feel exhausted because your brain is running too many background processes. Secret number 5 is don't think in your head, think on paper. I want to introduce you to the brain dump technique. Whenever you feel stuck, take a piece of paper and write down everything that is running through your mind. No order needed, no grammar needed. Write down your fear. I'm afraid of messing up this report. Write down your task. Email the client. When you write it down, you are transferring information from your brain to the physical world. You free up RAM. The monsters in your head, when written on paper, suddenly become much smaller and manageable. Clarity brings power. Once everything is on paper, you no longer have to worry about forgetting. You can look at that list and calmly pick the smallest thing to do. Don't let your mind be a cluttered warehouse. Turn it into an organized library with the tip of your pen.
Secret 6: Breaking the shame spiral and the truth about motivation. There is a brutal truth that few people tell you. The more you procrastinate, the more you hate yourself. And the more you hate yourself, the more you procrastinate. This is called the shame spiral. You don't do the work, you feel guilty. Guilt drains your energy. You have even less energy to work, and so you procrastinate again. Most advice out there tells you to be stricter, to have iron discipline. Wrong! Toxic strictness is exactly the fuel that feeds procrastination. Psychological science has proven procrastination is not a time management problem. It is an emotion management problem. You aren't avoiding the work. You are avoiding the negative emotions like anxiety, fear, boredom that the work brings up. And here is the biggest lie. You are sitting there waiting for motivation to knock on your door. You think, I have to feel inspired to do it. Let me be clear on this. Motivation never comes before action. Motivation is the result of action. You don't wait to feel happy to smile. Sometimes you smile and then you feel happy. Action works the same way. We must learn to work even when our emotions don't agree. This technique is called action independent of feeling. Don't negotiate with your brain. When you feel bored, say, "Okay, I know you're bored. We will take this boredom with us to work." Don't try to chase the emotion away. Invite it to sit next to you, but don't let it take the steering wheel. To escape the shame spiral, you need a powerful antidote: radical self-forgiveness. Forgive yourself for wasting yesterday. Forgive yourself for wasting the last 3 hours. Beating yourself up only makes you heavier. The moment you forgive yourself, the weight vanishes. And strangely enough, when the weight vanishes, your feet want to move again.
Secret 7. The visualization paradox and the ghost of future. You often hear the advice, create a vision board. Close your eyes and imagine you have succeeded. But neuroscience says otherwise. When you visualize success in too much detail, your brain cannot distinguish between imagination and reality. It thinks you have already achieved the goal. It releases dopamine to celebrate early. And the result? You lose all motivation to grind. You are satisfied in your mind and lazy in reality. The ancient Stoic philosophers had a much more effective method. They called it negative visualization. Instead of dreaming of heaven, look straight into the hell of stagnation. I want you to do a small exercise right now. Close your eyes. Imagine 5 years have passed, and you haven't changed a thing. You are still procrastinating just like today. You are still doing the job you hate. Your health has deteriorated. Your bank account is still empty. And most painfully, you see your peers have moved far ahead while you are still stuck in the same spot. Feel the pain of that regret. Feel the bitterness in your throat. That is the true cost of procrastination. Procrastination brings short-term comfort, but it silently destroys your future. This fear, the fear of wasting your life, is actually the most powerful, sustainable source of motivation. Don't run for the carrot. Run because the wolf is chasing you from behind. Life is going to be painful either way. You have 2 choices: the pain of discipline, which weighs ounces, or the pain of regret, which weighs tons. Today, choose the lighter pain. Choose discipline. Secret 8. Outsourcing discipline and the observer effect. Answer honestly. Do you ever leave your house messy for a whole week, but then clean it spotless in just 15 minutes before a guest arrives? Why are you willing to break promises to yourself, but afraid to break promises to others? That is not hypocrisy. That is biology. We are tribal animals. The fear of being judged, of being ousted from the tribe, is much stronger than personal desire. If your willpower is weak, and that is normal, don't try to carry it all alone. Outsource your discipline. Find an accountability partner. It could be a friend, a colleague. The rule is simple. Every morning, text them 3 things you will do. At the end of the day, you must report the results. If you don't finish, you pay a small penalty, like buying them a coffee. But what if you don't have anyone to text? Use the body doubling technique. This is magic for those who lose focus easily. You just need to work alongside someone else, whether in person or via video call. You don't need to talk. Just their presence alone is enough to switch your brain into work mode. You will feel embarrassed if you sit there scrolling through your phone while the other person is focused on typing. You can go to a coffee shop, a library, or join online study with me rooms on YouTube. When you are surrounded by people who are striving, that energy is contagious.
It pulls you out of the swamp of laziness without you having to try too hard. We are often taught to be strong alone, to be a lone wolf. But the truth is, asking for help is not weakness, it is intelligence. Don't let your ego stop your progress. Let positive social pressure become the wind that pushes your boat further.
Secret 9. Biohacking procrastination and taking care of the brain's CEO. Sometimes the problem isn't your attitude. The problem is your biological hardware. Inside your brain, there is a CEO called the prefrontal cortex. This area is responsible for discipline, planning, and focus. But this CEO is very high maintenance. It consumes a massive amount of energy. When your body is tired, the prefrontal cortex is the first place to have its power cut. When that happens, the playful monkey, known as the limbic system, takes control. It only wants fun, tasty food, and sleep. Did you know one night of sleep deprivation impairs brain function equivalent to being drunk? You wouldn't expect a drunk person to work effectively, so why do you demand productivity from yourself when you've only slept 5 hours? The CEO's second enemy is blood sugar. If your breakfast is a pastry and a bubble tea, you are setting yourself up for failure for the entire day. A massive sugar spike followed by a crash sends the brain into a panic for energy. At this point, willpower is a luxury. Eat protein, eat greens, provide slow, sustainable fuel for your brain. And finally, the fastest secret to reset your brain: movement. Procrastination often comes with physical stagnation. When you sit still for too long, blood doesn't pump to the brain fast enough. You feel sluggish and depressed. Don't just sit there thinking. Stand up, do 10 push-ups, walk around the house. As soon as your heart beats faster, your brain wakes up. Motion creates emotion. Sometimes the solution to procrastination isn't a new self-help book. It is simply a good night's sleep, a decent meal, and a little bit of sweat. Love your physical body, and your mind will repay you with focus.
Be careful with what you say after the words, "I am." Many of us label ourselves, "I am a procrastinator. I am a night owl. I am not a disciplined person." When you repeat these phrases enough, they become a self-fulfilling prophecy. Your brain will subconsciously sabotage your efforts just to protect that identity. It wants to keep your actions consistent with your beliefs. Secret number 10 is shift your identity first, and actions will follow. Apply the method acting technique. For the next 30 days, I want you to play a character. That character is a super disciplined version of yourself. When faced with a difficult decision, don't ask, "Do I want to do this?" Ask, "What would a disciplined person do in this situation?" And then play that role. Author James Clear once said, "Every action you take is a vote for the type of person you wish to become." Every time you choose to make your bed instead of scrolling through your phone, you are casting a vote for the identity, "I am organized." Every time you write one sentence, you cast a vote for the identity, "I am a writer." You don't need to be 100% perfect. You just need to win the majority of the votes. Don't say, "I'm trying to quit smoking." Say, "I am not a smoker." Don't say, "I'm trying to write a book." Say, "I am an author." This tiny shift in language creates massive psychological power. It shifts you from the position of someone who is struggling to someone who already owns that quality. People often say, "Fake it till you make it," but I prefer this: fake it till you become it. Wear the coat of discipline until one day it becomes your skin.
Secret 11. Fake rest versus strategic rest. Escaping the burnout trap. Does this sound familiar? You work for an hour, feel tired, and reward yourself with 15 minutes of social media. But 15 minutes later, you return to your desk feeling twice as exhausted. That is because you are practicing fake rest. When you scroll through your phone, your brain isn't resting at all. It is being bombarded by thousands of pieces of information, colors, sounds, and emotions. It's like trying to charge your phone with a broken cable. This leads to an interesting psychological phenomenon, revenge bedtime procrastination. During the day, you do things you don't like, or you procrastinate and feel guilty. So at night, you refuse to go to sleep. You stay up until 2 or 3 a.m. to reclaim time for yourself. But the price you pay is being exhausted tomorrow, and the hellish loop starts all over again. To break this loop, you need to learn strategic rest. These are low dopamine activities. Instead of grabbing your phone, try this. Lie flat on the floor and stare at the ceiling. Go for a walk without music, or simply meditate for 5 minutes. The goal is to let your brain be bored. Boredom is exactly when the brain clears out the trash and recharges creative energy. I highly recommend trying NSDR, non-sleep deep rest. Just 10 minutes of closing your eyes and focusing on your breath can restore energy equivalent to a nap without the grogginess afterward. Treat rest as part of the work, just like an athlete must rest for their muscles to recover. Don't feel guilty for doing nothing. In a world that glorifies busyness, daring to stop and breathe is an act of bravery. When you protect your sleep and your rest, you are protecting your own future.
Look at this puppy. How do you teach it to sit? You don't yell at it. You wait for it to sit and immediately give it a treat. Your brain, at its most instinctual level, works exactly like this puppy. It repeats actions that bring pleasure and avoids actions that bring pain. The problem is, we often do the opposite. When we finish a task, we ignore it and immediately worry about the next thing. We never reward the inner puppy. The final secret is celebrate tiny victories. Don't wait until you finish the book to celebrate. Celebrate when you finish a chapter. Even better, celebrate when you finish a page. Every time you cross a line off your to-do list, smile, clench your fist, and say, "Yes!" This small action releases dopamine. It marks in your brain, "Doing this was fun. Let's do it again next time." Create a celebration ritual. After 25 minutes of focus, reward yourself with a piece of dark chocolate, a cup of good tea, or 5 minutes of listening to your favorite song. You are teaching your brain that discipline equals reward, not discipline equals suffering. We have gone through 12 secrets, from breaking down tasks, managing emotions, to forgiving yourself. But the most important thing I want you to remember is, productivity is not about squeezing yourself dry to please others. True productivity is the art of living fully to your potential without losing your joy. Treat yourself like a best friend. Be strict when necessary, but always be forgiving and encouraging. You have all the tools in your hand. Now is the time to write your new story. We have journeyed a long way together. From understanding that procrastination is a response to fear, not laziness, to learning how to break goals down into stupidly small steps to trick the brain. We learn to build an environment that protects focus, to shift our identity from procrastinator to doer, and most importantly, to forgive ourselves when we stumble. You don't need to apply all 12 of these secrets at once. That is the trap of perfectionism. Just pick one secret that resonates with you the most today and start with it. It could be the 2-minute rule. It could be the forgiveness technique, or simply going to bed earlier tonight. Massive change always begins with tiny ripples. If this video brought you value, and if you want to join me in future deep dive videos on personal development and healing the mind, please hit the subscribe button and ring the notification bell. Here, we do not judge. We grow together. And I have a small challenge for you. Leave a comment down below with the affirmation, "I am ready to start." Or share one tiny thing you will do immediately after turning off this video. When you write that commitment down, you are sending a powerful signal to the universe and to your own brain. Thank you for spending your precious time here. Remember, you are stronger than you think, and you deserve a fulfilling life. I believe in you. See you in the next video. Goodbye.